Good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. I think my, yeah, it's on.
Yeah. Yes, it is. I can hear you.
You got a haircut.
I did. I cut it all down. It's summertime. Standing out there on the river, on Thursday, it was getting a little warmish out there.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. It was an enjoyable day.
It was. It was a real nice day out there. I had a good time. I did a okay painting. I'm happy with how it all ended up. So, how about you?
Well, I listed the last couple of sessions as trying to learn to do trees.
Mm-hmm.
So that was. Once I saw the trees, I figured that was a good goal to have, is to learn how to paint trees.
Well, you are in Georgia.
Well, that's true.
Yes, that is my major complaint, of all in moving to Georgia is the fact that there's too damn many trees and they're always in the way of the thing that you actually want to paint.
Yeah, it's interesting that I belong to a group of mastering on Facebook of mastering oil painting, I think is what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And I posted the one on before up in Kennesaw Mountain picture,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the comments that somebody made was the fact that picture has an awful lot of green in it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and
It does.
yeah, but go outside,
That's right. Yeah, right.
anywhere you go around here, that's what it is. It's, it's endless green everywhere. So, hi, Rebecca. How are you?
Doing fine, thank you. How are you? How's everybody?
Well, it's Monday. We're back again.
Glad to be here, glad to be alive.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So, do you work well, you sent me your painting. And you haven't done any more to it, have you?
No,
Okay.
but I tell you what I have done.
Okay.
I had a little painting lesson with our two granddaughters that came over yesterday.
Oh, okay. Nice.
They're at the 5-year-old and 3-year-old stage.
Uh-huh.
Big circles, big and very, very light on the details.
Okay. Well, there are probably some lessons to be learned there. I mean,
yeah, they're using their whole shoulder. I mean, their shoulder
mm-hmm.
is the whole movement.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But I'm saying lessons for you.
Always lessons for me.
Yeah. About leaving the detail, using the whole arm, everything. That's
Right.
good. That's good. Okay. See. And sometimes actually, passing things on that you've learned is a good way to not only reinforce those ideas, but also kind of re-explore them about, how you want to, sort of kind of process your approach or your method, so that you can actually explain it to people.
I think that's very true, and I think it carries over to just about every discipline.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that I learned about plants, I learned from my grandmother, who learned from her grandmother and my mother, and that part just keeps going. And so now we have grandchildren that are very interested in trees and gardens and flowers and what's that one and tell me about this one, and it's fun to tell them the names and then try to get them to pronounce the names of some of the more difficult ones.
Right. Yeah. And the thing is, if that knowledge has been passed on to you, you have it and you can share it with them. And you see, we're going to talk a lot about that today, actually.
Intergenerational learning.
Right, because that's traditionally how crafts and art was passed on. You know, it became sort of a family thing. You learned a skill, you learned a craft, whether it was making shoes or, you know, dyeing leather or making textiles or whatever it was passed on from members of your family to you. And then you sort of had the responsibility to pass it on to the next generation.
Well, I bless my grandmother and my grandfather. They, in their elder years, I remember them walking arm in arm around their yard, looking at the different plants that they had. And there was one that they had called a banana shrub that's blooming in my yard right now. And it does smell like bananas. It's beautiful. It's got a little
Yeah.
red star-like flower that starts as a bud and then opens up. And I got the appreciation of that from them.
Yeah. All right. And it only smells like a banana.
Yeah, it doesn't look like, I mean, yeah, you can't eat it. It's just got that wonderful, delicious banana smell.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, I've actually never heard of that, but okay.
Well, they come in different colors. Ours happens to be a red one, and it's a small bud, about 2 or 3 inches long and maybe an inch or so around, and starts out with the bud closed and then opens up, and that's when you get the fragrance. And you walk by it, and it's almost like walking by a jasmine or something. It just smells wonderful.
Okay. Could you do me a favor and maybe take a photo of one of the blooms and some of the leaves?
Sure, I'd be glad to.
Okay. Yeah.
This is a very old southern type bush.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm sure it's got a technical name, but I've always known it as the banana shrub.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, you know, every region sort of has their plants and things that grow in that area and do well and get passed on down the family tree, you know, more or less. So, yeah, be interested in that, you know. Seeing as how I have a yard that I have to populate with plants.
Oh, you're going to have so much fun.
Yeah. Well, I just got done cutting down a bunch of trees. You know, a bunch of trees that, well, you know, at one point in time, they were probably nice ornamental trees, but they were put too close to the house. And
Right.
yeah, they got too big and nobody kept care of them for too many years and they just needed to go. So away they went. So yeah, we'll be looking at planting some other things here, you know, probably in the relatively near future. So.
Well, the North Fulton Master Gardeners will be glad to help you with that. If you call the county extension office where you're going to be, I don't know if they have it in Alabama, but I know they have it here in Fulton County.
Yeah. Yeah, I could probably.
You can ask for help. You can ask for a list of the plants that are southern plants that are for. I think I have one on my bookshelf. I can tell you the name of it. I'll have to look it up though.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah, that's something I could probably Google and look into, you know, for that area.
Right.
Well, good morning, Claudia. How are you? And then there's Armando.
Good morning. Finally got the link. Did my work already, the other one.
Say what?
I said, finally I got the new link because the other one that she sent last week, it doesn't work. And I was trying, so thank you. She finally sent another one.
Oh.
No, the last minute. So.
Okay. All right.
And I see somebody chop off your head.
No, I did that. Yes.
Yourself?
Yes, I did it myself.
Oh,
Very nice, Travis.
I would
Very
like to know
nice.
how to do it so you can save me $18 a month.
Well, you just, Armando, it's really pretty easy, you know. I mean, since the beard and the hair are the same length, you get a pair of clippers with a guard on it.
Yeah, I
and
got those.
And you just go around and around and around.
What about the
Nice
back?
demo.
It's pretty, it's a pretty straightforward, simple process.
I see Miss Claudia's back. Hello, Miss Claudia.
Yes, she is.
Hello, Armando.
We haven't seen you in a while.
Oh, okay. Well, nice to know I was missed.
Yes, you were missed.
You know, life gets in the way of some of the things you want to do. So,
Yeah.
and you think that when you're retired, you're retired, but you're really not retired.
No, not
what
at
you want to do. There's so many things, and then you find there's a lot of things you wanted to do, and that keeps you busy too.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of which, you were actually supposed to give us kind of a book report on your experience going to the American Portrait Society.
Matter of fact, I was supposed to send you some photos. And I am this person who I see a Kodak moment no matter where I am.
Mm-hmm.
So I have all of these photos on my phone, and I was trying to upload them so that I could clear that and be able to more timely be able to get my photos.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was able to send you some of the photos.
Okay.
I took time trying to get the computer to match with my phone and all of that, and it was uploading. And then it was there, and I said I would like to sort. And next thing I know, they were all gone. And I can't tell you how many thousands of photos that is. But fortunately, they're still on the phone, but I'm trying to see how to get them out. But I'm going to send some photos so that you can see and we can upload it to the screen, because there were some nice displays of photos they had. The book that I gave you was all those photos from that book, the one book from I think it was the Hope, as the Hope, something like that, where people had been incarcerated, or they were on drug problems or whatever, and they came to this place and they helped them out a lot. I think it's in St. Louis. I don't remember.
No, it's in Birmingham.
Birmingham, yes.
Yeah, one was from Birmingham. The other was from in South Carolina.
Yes. Well, yeah. And so it was a fantastic place that they have helped these women, mostly all women. And so they did a book. It's a lot of the well-known painters from, I think a lot of them belong to the Portrait Society. And they commissioned them, or they donated their to painting of some of these, some of the people that wanted to be in the program. I mean, that were in the program, and allow them to paint their painting and then tell their story. Right. And so they sell this book to help support the center, to help more people. It's a magnificent project. It was a magnificent project that was really something to behold. And I would, if people could buy the book, it would be good for this particular program. It's like a self-sustaining program, and just other contributions, but this really was a magnificent piece of work that a lot of the artists that were at the workshops and at the Art Society that make their living from artwork, from doing portraits and things. So that was a magnificent book. And then there's also one from the 50 states where Wyatt, is it Wyatt? What's his first name?
Andrew Wyeth? Is it Andrew Wyeth?
No. It's, well, I get the name. I have the book also. Okay. And she did the military people, veterans, and she went around the country. It took us a 7-year project. She went around the country, and she painted in watercolor. That was so amazing. The pictures are, if anybody that paints in a watercolor, you should see the paintings in that book and see how she really took, and many of our portraits, and it's just a magnificent display of work that and it was just not just your typical veteran, but there were all kind of veterans and from every walk of life, and how she came to decide who she would paint. and give life to. And it was it's a wonderful book for your collection. So if you're going to buy any art books, these books really have a meaning to them, and they really help support various causes. So, but I don't have the other photos, but some of those photos that were displayed are photos that were in those 2 books.
Right. Okay. Well, I actually have the 2 books.
Okay, good. Good.
And I'll take some shots. But yeah, I can't remember her first name either. But now that I knew what you're talking about, okay, yeah.
I have the books right there. I'll get it.
I'll try to take some photos of that and share maybe on Wednesday, and you know, because like you, when I looked at that book, I hadn't. It took me a while to realize that these were all watercolors, because they, you know, they're fairly small photos, and I'm sure they're greatly reduced from the original size, but they do almost look like oil paint. You know, I mean, the contrast and everything. There's a few telltale signs that it's actually a water-based media. You know, some of the soft edges and things like that. But for the most part, I mean, you know, they really, when you first look at them, you would think, oh, oil painting, you know. So
one of the things that was interesting is that, you know, I met the artist in person, because I do have a picture with the artist, and you know, she signed books. One of the things that was interesting is that she said she didn't tell anyone about this project she was doing. I mean, she was painting all right, but she didn't tell them what all it was for and the purpose that she was traveling, because she didn't want anyone to dissuade her or to put in give her any input as to who should be painted. She wanted to feel the person, and she would want. There's one vendor who was a farmer. She went actually to his farm, and she went out with him and to see how his day goes. And she spent time with the people before she painted them. So I think that was a very significant project. So she can speak with it from experience and with love and connection with their life and what they did in the military and what they are doing now. And they are veterans of all ages and from different branches of the military.
Yeah. Well, and you and I have kind of talked about that before as well. It's a lot of portrait painters, you know, and particularly the professional, you know, folks who make a living doing this. They want to take the approach where they want time with the person, because it really informs you about what the painting needs to be. It's really a critical part of that process. And, you know, there are many professional artists out there who will refuse a commission of somebody who has passed, you know, who's posthumous, because they won't, there's no way that they could, unless they knew them in life, you know. And then in those cases, you know, they might, you know, do a portrait of someone, but for the most part, a lot of professional artists won't paint, you know, somebody who has passed away who they don't know, because it's really almost like a disservice. You know, you're copying an image that really only gives you just one split second of their life, and you have really no idea, you know, who this person really is, and that carries into the painting. It shows. You know, and that's always been my personal belief, and in talking to many people who paint portraits, you know, that's a fairly common shared belief and experience. So, but yeah, I'm glad you went there, and you know, I would appreciate you sharing some of the images, and as you do, you know, maybe you can give us some narration about what was going on with those, you know, here in the fairly near future. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Whenever you can get them to me, you know, we'll.
Yeah. So I'm going to get it done before I forget.
Yeah. Please do that.
Yeah, and I did go to the workshop, so I'll tell you about that.
Okay. All right.
On side joy. Thank you.
Okay. So, wow, we got 10 whole people here. Let's see. We got Veronica, Naomi, Bob's here, John's here, Jean.
Hello.
Hi, Jean.
Hi.
Yep, you made it. That's good. Armando's here. Claudia's here. Richard is here. And Rebecca is here. Did I miss anybody? I don't think so. Okay. And well, yeah.
John's iPad.
Yeah, just me. All right. So last week we kind of began to scratch the surface on, you know, Asian art, and you know, in particular, we sort of concentrated on certain aspects of Japanese art. Okay. Well, we're going to kind of continue on with that today because there's, you know, there's a lot there. You know, and if you really kind of think about it, Japan and China are probably some of the oldest continuous cultures that have existed on the planet. In fact, they predate, you know, Western civilization by about 3,000 years. Okay. So they got a little time on us over there. Okay. And they've been doing stuff for a long time. And it will kind of circle back around, you know, to what Rebecca and I were talking about early, you know, in this conversation today about passing things on, you know, having things within your family, a tradition and things, and passing those skills on or that knowledge. And this has happened for a very long time, you know, in this culture, because in Japan and both in China and through a lot of the Southeast Asian cultures, you know, that tradition of, you know, sharing those skills from generation to generation is sort of ingrained, you know, in their culture, you know, as being an important aspect. And it's something that, in fact, our Western societies, European and American, as well as South American societies, could probably benefit and learn from, you know, in the process. So, you know, it happens in some cases here, but not nearly enough. Anyway, that's just my viewpoint, and we can talk about that later. But we're going to get rolling. We got a couple of, most of these videos are fairly short. They're about, you know, 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes at the most, okay? We're going to start with one of the longer ones, and then we're going to get into some of the shorter ones, okay? And the first one is really kind of about, you know, kind of the wide and kind of broad aspect of different crafts and art, you know, in Japan, okay? So we're going to start with that, and then we'll work our way to painting and such things, okay? And I actually got organized today and queued them all up on my YouTube thing, so we don't have to change windows. Ha!
Oh,
Yeah.
good for you, Charles.
Yay! You know, I kind of figured it out a little bit.
Do you have a YouTube account?
I do. Mm-hmm. I
Okay.
do. Yeah. All right. So kind of away we go.
Ishikawa.
Yeah, Ishikawa and Gifu craftsmanship. And well, he'll explain. And this is in English.
Japan, famous for advanced technological growth married with a deep-rooted culture of traditional precision and quality. It's no secret that I love Japan. I love spending time there, getting to know the culture, the ins and outs of everything that unifies it and makes it tick. Recently, I had the opportunity to work with the Ishikawa and Gifu prefectures to explore the area and meet some artists behind some of the greatest handcrafts of Japan. Ishikawa and Gifu are known as the central artisan hub of Japan. Located in the Chubu area, they produce some of the most iconic pieces in Japanese craft. Our journey started in Ishikawa in a city called Kanazawa. Kanazawa is the capital of Ishikawa and is known as one of the most prestigious cities in the history of Japan. The city's beauty is reflected in the premium filter and bespoke nature of the place, with amazing streets to wander and fantastic food to eat. There are also gardens with pristine quality to lose yourself and gain inspiration from. Known as the town of gold leaf and making over 99% of all gold leaf products in Japan, Kanazawa is undoubtedly the place to experience this delicate art. Multiple sheets of gold are pounded together to an impossibly thin 1/10,000th of a millimeter before being applied to various kitchenware and products around the home. The raw nature of the gold leaf can only be described as magical. Just a small breath of air or even the heat from your hand is enough to move it. When traveling around Japan, you're sure to find many gold leaf products, and there's a high chance that it originated in Kanazawa. Along the northern peninsula of the Ishikawa prefecture, you'll come to a city called Wajima. Famous for Wajima Nuri, a particular type of lacquerware. We were introduced to the process of the lacquerware in a workshop situated at the back of a master's home. Upon entering his home, we realized that this was a workshop with many years of experience. We later found out that actually most of the lacquerware is produced by a commission basis rather than as items for sale. The craft of making these products can take over a year to produce with up to 124 different processes along the way. It's clear that this is a craft that has been passed through generations with over 100 years of experience in this house alone. It's extremely humbling to be able to experience someone's home and their craft in the same space and be able to distinguish the differences between work and life, but also the balances that marry them together. The time and experience involved in making each of these items adds up exponentially. We ate from bowls that were well over 60 years old, yet they still felt like they were only brand new items. I tried my hand at carving a design into one of the bowls, and through my experience as a designer working with craft knives and packaging prototypes, I thought this was something I was going to be fairly adept at. But I was pretty wrong. I really struggled with the precision involved to engrave and etch my artwork into this bowl. But with a little bit of help from our sensei, we were able to finalize the product into something that I'm actually pretty happy with. This definitely set the tone for the skill required for each of the handcrafts we were about to experience on this trip. In traditional ceremonies and formal events around Japan, it's common to wear kimonos. Up until only a couple of hundred years ago, these were pretty plain designs and fairly simple in their structure. But at the beginning of the 18th century, Miyazaki Yuzensai developed the silk dyeing process. Yuzen refers to the process of applying illustrative and decorative artwork to silk. Kaga Yuzen is one of the most famous versions of this, depicting real-life illustrative elements based on Kaga Gosai, literally meaning Kaga 5 colors. Ellie had a go at some of the stencil dyeing process on a small canvas bag. Definitely looked pretty therapeutic. Japan is world famous for food. It literally is the epicenter of the culture. Families, homes, everything revolves around food. So it's no doubt that so much care and attention is not only placed into making the food, but also the items you eat the food off. Upon entering the Kutaniyaki Kiln Museum, it was immediately apparent that the craft today is still performed in pretty much the same manner as it always has been. Using natural paints, I designed some artwork to go on a small cup. The surface of the pottery is pre-applied with a special coating that helps the paint adhere to the surface. It actually makes the whole process incredibly difficult because you can't touch the surface that you're actually painting on. It was mesmerizing to see the paint applied to the pottery, creating designs literally in seconds. As soon as I had a go at doing it myself, things weren't quite as easy. I kind of struggled with the natural paints on the ceramic. It's great to come away with a cup that I've personally painted, and every time I look at it, I can remember the whole experience of producing it. This is another hour towards the 10,000 of becoming a master. Only 9,990 more to go. From Ishikawa, we traveled through to Gifu, populated with an incredibly patient, trustworthy, and very punctual people. This is the metaphorical and physical heartland of Japan. It's no surprise that this is an area synonymous with manufacturing and is famous for some of the most traditional handcrafts of Japan.
Facebook ad.
On our journey, we passed through Shirakawa-go, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. We previously visited in the winter and saw it in a beautiful snowy landscape. This time around, things were a lot hotter and very luscious and green. The houses in the village are made from very traditional techniques with a lot of timber and tying processes. It has a great community presence, and you can really feel that everyone there plays a part into maintaining it. It was great to experience this unique village in another season. You can definitely tell that the personality adapts and changes with the weather. Taking the Nogi bus from Shirakawa-go, we ended up in Takayama, one of my favorite cities in all of Japan. A city nestled amongst woodlands, Takayama is a source of the finest timber and highest quality carpenters. This is a region vastly proud of its woodworking abilities. You can see it through the timber on the facades to the buildings, aged with natural texture and weathering for a unique aesthetic. I love the premium feel to the area, and the natural textures mixed with the straight lines of handcraft and architecture really add to a unique vibe about the place. There is an old town, popular with tourism, but it's the residential areas that really stood out to me. You can see how the woodwork just intertwines throughout every element of the designs, and you can really feel it as an extra family member to the whole region. It's abundantly evident that woodworking skills are highly regarded here. Gujo Hashiman, a town famous for its pristine and clean waters, is the home of Aizume, the indigo dyeing process that creates the Japanese blue fabric. Indigo blue is iconic across all of Japan. You can see it in popular fashion, amongst official garments, and even in history from the samurai era. I was surprised to learn that to create this blue is actually a process of fermentation, using a living body of various different plants and organisms in a liquid substance. The process of dyeing the fabric isn't actually based on how long it spends in this liquid, but actually when it oxidizes and mixes with the air. It's a chemical reaction that over a period of multiple applications can create this deep and vivid indigo blue. Watanabe-san was a true master of his craft and very humble in his process. As the last producer of Aizume in the Gujo Hachiman area, he is the stronghold for this traditional blue fabric.
そうですね。九条はまず一つはすごく自然に恵まれてて、
His opening and welcoming nature was evident throughout all of his work in his studio. I love the graphic styles and the detail to some of the illustrations applied to the blue. You could really tell just how eager he was to share the process of making these products and to continue the tradition for many years to come. Indigo blue has been one of the most noticeable things I've seen when walking around Japan. And I'm so happy to have been able to experience the production of it and learn the process of how this subtly iconic feature is produced. In Tajimi City, we met with Aoyama-san, a master of Kusano Kashira Gama. Famous for his mastery of Shiro Temoku, the white style tea bowl. Walking through the studio, we were met with hundreds of examples of bespoke pottery. And again, upon immediate reflection, you can tell that there are thousands of hours of experience here. Having learned the history behind his style and how it's evolved over the years, we saw Aoyama-san produce some pottery right in front of us. It was amazing to see just how fast he could work.
塊の粘土をね、まず最初に置いたでしょ、最初。
He's been making pottery since he was a very young boy, and you can clearly tell from when he started producing things right in front of us, he could literally spawn off plates, bowls, and cups in a matter of minutes with seemingly no effort at all.
塊じゃない。
Just the process of how his hands were molded around the clay, you could really tell that this was a muscle memory, harder work. I was mesmerized to watch the pottery being made right in front of me. I feel very lucky to have been able to witness another master of work producing some great handcrafted products. Being able to see everything being manipulated so seemingly easy was just utterly awe-inspiring. During the process of making the pottery, I was amazed to see that there weren't really any modern tools involved. Everything was all done with his hands. In fact, probably the only modern thing available in sight was the bucket to hold the water. Even the tool he used to spin the potter's wheel was just a branch found out in the garden.
And no kick
When
wheel.
making my own cup, I failed multiple times. As soon as I put my hand to the clay, everything just started to fall apart. It seemed I could build it up to about 50% of the way there, and then within a second, bring it crashing back down to 10%. So with quite a lot of help from Aoyama-san, I was eventually able to get to a level of a cup that I was pretty happy with. What struck me most was how open he was for teaching other people, but also how he actually thought about the products that he was making. Offering insight into thinking more deeply about who you're making the product for. Whether that's thinking of your wife, your children, or the company who've commissioned it, you can create a deeper connection into the product.
覚えると今度次のなんかテーマが出てくるので、それをこなして、それをこなしてと言って、私が、ね、女房をもらった時に、この家族のためにお茶碗作ったり、食器を作ったりした時のものの人気が良かった。
What struck me as most impressive was how he was able to replicate the same cup over and over again, even to the same size and volume. So once again, thanks to his patience, and thank you for the cup that I eventually made.
I think I did about 4% of this.
One of Japan's strongest assets is its steel. Historically from sword making and now into knife making, Seki City is known as the City of Blades and is one of the origins for this long-standing history. I had the pleasure of making my own kitchen knife, something I've wanted to do for a very long time. Unfortunately, we didn't have enough time to produce from the very, very outset of the steel, so we started with a basic structure and it took time to buff it and sharpen it into a working, finished product. I absolutely adore the Damascus pattern on the knife. It just glimmers so much in the light. It's definitely a product that I'm so happy to have as my own. What's made even more special about it is the fact that I worked on it to get it to where it is today. In difference to the other handcrafts we've experienced on this trip, this was by far the most industrial. It didn't have as much of a delicate approach to the others, but the actual product itself in the end is very, very delicate. This just shows a complete other side to the craftsmanship in Japan through strength and power from the samurai era of swordsmanship. It takes a lot of work to sharpen a blade to Japanese standards, but I was insanely impressed by how sharp it was against a sheet of paper, something you wouldn't normally use a blade on. Again, the openness to being taught how to produce something was so evident here. I really am truly thankful for being shown the processes and being given the time and patience to actually make something.
今日ジョーさん作ったのは、ジョーさんね、一生懸命作っていただいたから、とても良かったと思うんですね。ハイテクの技術もありますから、本当に関のナイフは、今はもう本当に世界一だと思いますので、ぜひ広めてください。
Our last chapter in our tour of craftsmanship across Japan was to experience the production of masu, the small wooden box, originally used to measure rice and even as a form of currency, now more commonly known for drinking sake. Similar to the knife making, this also had a very industrial feel to it, but the smell was what hit you immediately. You could almost taste the flavor of the hinoki wood. Hinoki is one of the most prized types of wood in Japan. With a water-repellent surface, it's perfect for making masu. There was so much activity happening around the workshop. I was completely fascinated watching all the different elements coming together, but it was the efficiency and the accuracy that really stands out here. Ohashi Ryoki is known as the masu company. It produces over 90% of all masu in Japan, and they've held their name based on their quality and attention to detail and accuracy. A very simple box, but there's actually a delicate nature into the way that it's produced with a very systematic process. It's why it's actually common for it to be used in ceremonial purposes, because there's deeper meaning to it just being a simple box. It's also a perfect souvenir to take away from Japan. From the many experiences I had in Gifu, I definitely came to understand the truth in the trustful and patient and very punctual personalities of the people there. Even in the depth of what we saw for all of these handcrafts in Japan, I still feel like we only scratched the surface of what this culture can do. As a creator, one of the most inspiring aspects of all of the places that we visited was just the setup and the workspace. The lighting, the layout, and the visually evident characters of each of the workspaces is so memorable to me. Through my many trips to Japan, I've always appreciated the culture and the attention to detail and the mastery. But having experienced time with these artists directly, my appreciation has been elevated immensely. The thing with arts and crafts is that technique and process can be taught, but perseverance, patience, and determination to master a skill is down to personal priority. I have no doubt the artists we've encountered have been truly successful and very well respected within their communities for maintaining traditions and adding their own creativity. But I also expect many of these artists have also suffered from times of low business or difficult decisions both financially and emotionally. It's a process all artists go through, and their passion and determination to continue is what commands my highest respect. This is the epitome of art in the heart. It's been an absolute pleasure to experience all of these craftsmen and to see their work firsthand. One of my biggest cherishes is being able to take home some of the products I've actually had a hand in making myself. So I want to thank all of the artists and producers involved for giving their time for making this happen. It's definitely been one of the most memorable trips to Japan I've ever had. This only has me further excited to experience more arts and crafts in other regions.
All right. What'd you guys think about that? Oh, you're all muted. Let's see.
I thought it was great.
There we go. I loved it.
I did too. It was terrific. I had no idea that they were the people that did all of those different things. And I did have a couple of questions. So let everybody say what they want to say, then you can come back to me.
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
I just was fascinated by the fact that he was able to participate in actual production of, you know, of whatever the craft was. So that was neat.
Yeah. Yeah. Being able to actually sit down with somebody, you know, as a master craftsman and one, watch what they do, but also to get your hands, you know, on those materials and try to do it yourself. So you get some of the sense of really how difficult some of that stuff really is. And you know, the time that it takes to perfect, you know, that craft or that skill, you know, is.
I don't think the Americans have the patience to do a lot of that.
Mhm.
They want to get it done beautifully in a hurry.
Yeah.
They don't have the precision or the patience to
Well,
do it, really.
yeah. I would say that that's probably fairly true in our modern society today. But, you know, remember that we have had periods of history and time where, like in woodworking, you know, particularly in making furniture, things like that, you know, American craftsmen were probably some of the best craftsmen in the world. Another area that we really excelled in was shipbuilding. You know, we had people called boatwrights who could, out of simple materials like wood, make some of the best ships that have ever been made, you know, in all time. I mean, really, seriously. So, you know, we have a background in that. You know, our American manufacturing and, you know, industry was sort of based on those basic skills that we used to have, but much of that has been lost, unfortunately.
I think pretty much we went to industrialization. We may have had the craftsmen, but their techniques and everything were automated, and industrialization increased so rapidly in the West and didn't seem to as much in the East.
Automation also helped to make this more affordable to the common man, because the great artists or the people back in when they did that by hand, they could not share it with a lot of people, and it was very costly because the supply and demand was just extremely high. So you can appreciate it on one hand, but automation, advancements like technology, kind of like it replaced them as it replacing many of us today. But you give you another form, but not that custom made. Only way you're gonna find a lot of those kind of things, maybe not even passed on, but new generation starting it, is that at a lot of your marketplaces, your festivals, where people bring their custom made earrings and ceramic kind of pieces and stuff. But it's not necessarily passed on. The grandchildren or some children might do a little bit just for a hobby, but not really make a living out of it. There's very few of that now. But we are competing with ourselves as we move through life. So I think that is marvelous. I always want to travel. I always try to find something that was handmade or custom made by the people that lived there.
Right.
And as I told you before, the last time I went to Glasgow, I wanted to buy something as remembrance from my visit there, and I picked it up, and everything was made in China. So that wasn't doing it. And the same thing when I went to Virgin Islands. It was made, even the baskets were made from someplace else. So it just wasn't serving me very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, but I did find something though in Charlotte, Charleston, South Carolina, a young man was out by the dock, and he was making little floral pieces made from bamboo straw and stuff like that. So I said, okay, I'm gonna buy them, but I don't know what I was gonna do with. I was gonna buy them to support, because he was really showing you what they do there, and it was handmade. So
When you're an artisan, you cannot get paid for the number of hours and the patience and skills that you put into it. Like the Japanese people still do that, but here in America, you can't have the time nor the patience to do it in order to make a living. That's what I'm saying. It's being lost mostly because of that.
Right.
But we here in America, we pick and choose what we're going to value and pay for. Because some people put some things together, they put it out there on the internet, and next thing you know, they got $1 million offered for it. Many artwork was just took them 2 or 3 days or a month to do, and they get $25,000 and stuff like that. So we pick and choose what we want to value. You know, the cost of art, you know.
Right.
Now you see, that's a conversation that we will circle back around to here in not too long. Okay, but has anybody ever gone to? We haven't had one in a couple of years. Okay, but it's the American Arts and Crafts Show.
I have.
It comes to Atlanta every year.
I have once or twice.
Okay, yeah. That particular show and the organization who sponsors it is, an amazing resource. And if you've never looked them up online and you've never attended one of those shows, I would highly encourage you to go. Okay.
What do you look for online?
Look for the American Arts and Crafts Council.
American Arts and Crafts what?
Council.
Well, you broke up and I still haven't gotten
Council.
council.
Yeah.
Council.
Okay. If you'll Google them online, they have a website. They have a calendar of their shows. And again, I don't know that they've started back up after COVID, but I would expect that we'll probably be hearing something from them fairly soon.
Present a program showing some of the artwork that they do create.
Well, what they do is they actually have a traveling show that goes to a lot of cities. Atlanta has always been on the list.
Oh yes, I have been there.
Yeah, and
it was at the Galleria.
Right.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's usually every 2 years that they'll come through, and they pick some of the best or the highest skilled American craftsmen to include in that show. And there are literally probably about 600 to 800 craftsmen at each of these shows in, textiles, woodworking, metalwork, ceramics, you name it, it's kind of all over the place. But
you remember I told you that Dora's daughter, the painter Dora, her son-in-law did this art sculpture for me. That's what he does, and he had his exhibit in that show, and he had numerous beautiful woodworking pieces. He used to do it as a hobby, for a living. He made all kinds of studios for television and radio people that had to have these kind of studios, and sometimes for the ministers that they have theirs for their background and pulpit and stuff like that. Well, when he retired from that, he started doing, and he still does, individual art pieces, and he had some at the Quinlan Museum in Gainesville, and I have one that he has done, and it is magnificent. And it's you will never find another piece like it, because it's original out of his head and what he was feeling and what he wanted to express, and out of 5 different kinds of woods. And so you know that you have something unique, and it's yours, and it's and it's just wonderful to know that you know the artist who spent time and what kind of person he was who did that. So that piece will be passed down to the family and information about that person. So yes, that was a fantastic show, and I would recommend anyone to go who's interested in any kind of art.
Charles, I want to interject something here. I was reminded after watching that film that it takes at least 10,000 hours to become a master craftsperson. That's a lot of time.
That is a lot.
And then I was very interested to see that they used a fermentation process in making the indigo dyed cloth.
Right, because it's from a natural plant.
Right. I have a false blue indigo blooming in my yard now, and it's got a tall stalk on it with a lot of little blue flowers, and I was reminded of that. And then somebody along the way in that maybe the young man who was doing the interviews said that the artist takes into consideration the person who's going to receive the product that they make. Right. And that reminds me of what you were talking about, Claudia. So the art piece that you're so proud of, that's a one of a kind, that's really unique. And so I think maybe that carries over into what we do in practicing our own type of art. Think of who it is that we are making this for. And you always have a market for somebody. It's just finding who that is.
Yeah. Well, I remember when Charles told us that we had to do at least 200 paintings before we can really get a feel of what it is that we're doing and where we're going with our art. And it's time. My husband used to say, as a mathematics instructor, he said, "It's time on task." And if you don't put the time in, you're never going to get anywhere. It's time on task. And we all reach those plateaus, and sometimes some of us stop and some go forward and get through that plateau. So
right.
But yeah, and there really isn't any replacement for the time.
Yeah.
You know, the physical time doing a particular thing, you know, it's almost like a meditation, you know. It's like every time you make a paint stroke, you know, the first couple of thousand times you make the paint stroke, you know, you may get unpredictable results, you know, but after that, you know, first 1,000 paint strokes are done, then you begin to understand, you know, how to control the brush, you know, how the pressure, the feel of it, you know, it literally is muscle memory, right? And how, you know, it's not so much an intellectual thing in your head as much as it is just a sensation, the feeling of doing, you know, something over and over and over again. So,
what was the name of the wood that they made the sake cups out of? I heard that it was water resistant, but I didn't catch the name of it.
Yeah, I can't tell you what that is.
I can't either, so no big deal.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's all right.
But we can go back and watch it again.
No, that's fine. I'll find it. I'll find it online.
Yeah, but yeah, it has to be probably some, in looking at it, it has to be some member of a conifer type tree. Because one, a lot of those trees are resistant to water, like cypress, for example, right? Sheds water. So it could be a cypress, it could be a pine, you know, it could be a cedar, because they all resist water. So, but that particular species is prized there. Okay, so there's a couple of things I want to point out about this particular film. And one, it was kind of a broad spectrum of different types of crafts. And no, it doesn't have specifically anything to do with, you know, say some of the things that we're doing directly as far as painting or, you know, drawing or things like that in what we consider fine art. But the thing I want you to walk away with from all of this is that sense of craftsmanship. You know, that sense of no matter what you do, whether you're, you know, whether you're a cook and you're making food, or you're a potter and you're making ceramic pieces, and or you're, you know, somebody who plasters walls, you know, and does, you know, like interior type work, you know, as a craftsman, you know, you have to appreciate the skill, you know, of something well done, you know, and it's one of those things that set people apart from somebody who just does a job and somebody who takes that and raises it to a level to where it's so well done that it becomes an art form. And one of the things that I highly advocate and try to pass on to all of you is there are things that we do in our life, and, you know, they're just everyday common things, but you can take them to a level of doing them artfully, okay? And that's one of the key things is learning in life how to live in an artful way. You know, whether you're a writer or even if you're doing, you know, taxes or whatever, you can do it at, you know, a high level of skill and perfection that it becomes an art form, you know. And what that does for you as an individual, again, it becomes sort of like a meditation. It becomes a calming part of your life, something that's centered and stable in your life, you know, that you're anchored. And it's kind of a blessing, you know, to be able to do something like that. So I would encourage any of you, you know, whether it's gardening or, you know, whether it's sewing or making quilts or painting or drawing, you know, you don't have to keep art just to a piece of paper and a canvas. It can be so many different things in life, okay? So there's my spiel, okay? Anybody got anything they want to say in regard to that?
I do. I was going to say,
Okay.
From what you said, you get the self-satisfaction, the inner peace, or what you want to describe it. But along with that, I think you sort of still need some outside acceptance and recognition as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but when you do, you know, when you do some kind of practice and you do it well, people around you will notice.
True, but if you don't have people around you, then it's difficult.
Well, that is true. Yeah.
I mean, like for me, just the art shares is my way of getting outside expressions of what I'm doing.
Right.
I may be very happy and satisfied with the piece I produce, but I don't know if, you know, anybody else looking at it would throw up, you know?
Right. Yeah. Well, and you know, if we're talking about your watercolor paintings and things like that, yes, art, you know, the fact that we're sharing things on Tuesday is a good outlet, but I've encouraged each and every one of you, submit some things into a show.
John, I also think that this period we're in will pass. And eventually, Charles will get a chance to put some of your great works of art in the Benson Center on the wall.
We look forward to that. We look forward to that.
Well, actually, May 17th is coming up very quickly. And
That's
so,
true, yes.
yes, and so all of your work will be shown to the world, you know, out there, because it's going to be on YouTube.
Right. Wow, okay.
Eventually. I mean, you know, not too long after the event itself. And so will your voices and your faces, you know, if you want to be, of which I'm going to be setting up some interviews with people today, tomorrow, and Wednesday. Okay. Because I have to, you know, begin to actually talk to you one-on-one. and record those. Okay. So I'll be reaching out to you guys over the next several days. Right. So just look for an email from me. And if I can't seem to get a response from you, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to call you.
Oh, I thought you were going to visit.
Oh,
That's what I thought. Send
I thought you were going to invite us to lunch.
well, that might
table discussion.
that might get a little bit of steep, kind of steep, financially for somebody like
Artists,
me.
you know.
Well, I know, yeah, but I mean,
Yeah, Charles, we're going to offer you $5 to come visit.
there we go. There we go. Okay, yeah, but yeah, bringing lunch. I mean, it could get a little expensive. It depends on what you want for lunch too. I could always go down and get a Publix sandwich that we can split. Those are actually very good. So
Yes, they are.
Yeah, we like them too.
yeah. Okay. So we're going to move on here. We're going to get to the next video. And so let me see. We'll go back and we'll share. It's so easy being able to go back and not having like 20 windows open on my computer screen. I love that. It's
Yeah,
like,
you have to show me how to do that, Charles.
yeah, I finally figured that out. And it's
Yeah, you
it's kind of
show
like,
me.
that was a, that was a very useful thing.
Oh, you have to have a little workshop, so, $10 workshop to show us how to do that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So now I have the next video. It's 11 minutes. It's called Painting Paradise. Now this is a contemporary modern Japanese artist. Okay. Now you're going to have to read. Okay. Because he speaks in Japanese and it's all subtitled. Okay. But beautiful. Here, I'll start it back. Okay, come on. Okay, what happened to the sound? Here it is. Now I'm going to stop this just for a second, okay? If you will, look over to the right-hand side, that large screen,
Yes.
and then look what he's painting on. You see the back? This is called a cradle. Okay.
Fresh canvas, yeah. He stretches his own canvas.
Well, no, it's not canvas. It's a wood panel.
Oh, it is a wood panel?
Yeah.
Okay.
You see, it's a wooden frame, and it's got, kind of like a plywood, like a maple or something skin.
Right.
Okay. And so, he's working on a variety of surfaces and things here. But the surface itself seems to be a hard surface. It's not a pliable, soft surface, okay?
Charles, where's his easel?
You see the desk sitting over here to the left with the chair? He
Right.
works flat.
Oh, wow. Huh.
He doesn't work elevated. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, just watch. It's kind of interesting.
Does he work in inks, Charles?
He's working in like
Going blue.
different types of water-based paints.
Huh. Nikawa blue. Gotta play with his birdie. Oh, wow. Isn't that interesting?
So those are all dry pigments. So you see, he applies a sheet of silver leaf over his surface, and then he's painting on top of that.
And water-based paint sticks on top of a silver leaf?
I believe he's using like a tempera, and with the glue, the binder that he's using. Yeah.
Wow, he's quite accomplished.
Now you guys have never heard that composition is important, right?
Never.
Oh, when are you going to mention that to us?
My goodness.
That's what I hate. They always ask you, how long did it take you to paint? I said, I don't walk under a clock.
So it took,
Tell him 10,000 hours.
yeah, well, it said that it took him a year to paint this.
I bet, at least.
The details in it.
Small piece, 1 to 2 months. Wow, what a supply. Rock paint. Huh.
Yes, they're all like ground mineral based.
He really doesn't have to blend his colors because he's got every shade there is.
Right.
Like a gel.
Well, it's the glue plus the pigment. So it's a binder and a pigment.
Into a ball shape. Looks like an apothecary. Beat the ball. Amazing.
さまざまな筆や竹も使い分けます。次も日本画に重要な材料で、輪郭線や濃淡を表現するのに使い分けます。
So he's using like an ink.
なので、映画だければ、朝7時から10時まで、昼食は生活していた。
Pretty much all day long. Oh, gorgeous.
「よく散歩をします。家だけ自然の光で生活したいので、夜中は捜索しません。
Now, remember last week we saw the film and they told you about, you know, that particular like entryway or gate. It was part of the Shinto religion. So he's putting a piece of like transfer paper down on the silver, rubbing it down, and then lifting it. Then he's applying sizing.
Wow.
And then he's transferring the leaf.
Charles, where does the silver leaf come from?
It's well, it's actual. If you're using the real thing, it's actual silver. Now you can get metal leaf now that is a reproduction,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not terribly expensive. So a lot of artists can use that. Now whether it lasts as long, I'm not so sure.
Right.
But they have gold, copper, almost any kind of metallic surface, including a bronze that you can get. So you see he's layering his color, building it up, right?
Right.
And see, he started almost with a direct complement, right?
Mhm.
Red to green.
Mhm.
Yeah. Which tells you a little bit about his paints and how he's layering it. It's not opaque.
It's translucent.
Right. Yeah, so he's building up the richness of the color by the number of layers of color that he'll put over it.
My goodness, look at the detail. Woof.
Yeah, really, really delicate stuff.
Yes.
So it's easier to see the layers in the white than it is in some of the darker colors.
If you use opposite colors.
Yeah. That makes it have more depth.
Well, you don't seem to have the range of value contrast.
Painting paradise.
Okay.
So is he in Portland in the United States?
No, he's in Tokyo.
Oh, but they're calling it Portland Gallery.
Well, he's having an exhibition in Portland.
Oh, I see, I see.
He was getting ready for a show.
Wow.
Show his work in Portland, Oregon.
Right.
So, anybody got any thoughts about that? What we just saw?
Patience of a saint.
Definitely a lot of patience. Yeah. Yeah. But again, you know, could you see yourself committing yourself to a year to work on a painting?
I could if somebody would pay enough for it.
There we go.
I've
Great,
got
great
paintings,
incentive.
I've got paintings in my closet that are a year
You
old.
still have to pay rent.
Yeah, there's a difference between a year old and something that took you a year to produce.
All right.
Yeah, believe me, I've got paintings in my closet that are 40 years old. You
Oh
know,
my God.
so you know,
Funny.
yeah. So if you know, if they would pay you as, you know, kind of like with wine, you know, as it ages, that'd be great. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. So
Oh,
And somebody else has to be taking care of the other part of your life.
you're right. Yeah.
Right.
Well, then are these 1 minute, 5 minute drawings counterintuitive?
No, no, because they serve a different purpose. You know, in the sense that what they teach you is to look and respond and see proportion and movement.
Right. Yeah, which is very important in
Yes.
the whole scheme of things. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because you see, you take that skill and then you do a longer, more studied drawing, and you'll begin to understand composition, right? And you can begin to do things sort of like he was doing, you know, or, you know, something that you want to create. Yeah. But you've got to perfect your drawing skills and your understanding of composition and color. You know, it's the onion thing, Bob. You know,
Okay, layer at a time.
Yeah. It's like you peel back a layer and you find out, oh, okay, you know, now that I can do this, there's so much more I need to learn.
okay.
Right.
You need the right teacher to learn too.
Well, the main thing you need, you know, I mean, yes, somebody who has a background in skill, you know, to share
Right.
is invaluable. But at the same time, you know, they can only take you so far. And then after that, yeah,
That's the point. But
Yeah.
you learn the right way, or what you think is the right way, and then you practice that to try and get to a better piece.
right.
Charles, I was reading an article about Winslow Homer this weekend, and he was mainly self-taught.
Mhm.
And as he transitioned through his life as an artist, his style changed, and he had a certain subject and a certain thing that he was showing in his early life, depending on where he was in his life. For example, he did a lot of work when he observed for a magazine the battles of the Civil War.
Right.
And so then he went to several different places, even different countries, but ended up on the Northeast coast, Proust Neck, anyway.
Right.
And then it showed the transition of his stroke, his subject matter, how he approached a painting. Many of them were of the sea, and you could tell by his stroke of the waves and the wind and the clouds, his transition from a young man into a master by the time he was in his late life. But
Right.
it was real interesting to see all of that, how it all affected him as he went through his career.
Yeah. Well, I would argue with you that, yes, he was self-taught as a young man,
Right.
but
He did go to Paris, I believe.
he did, yes. And he surrounded himself by some consummate craftsmen in
Right.
in American painters and printers and people like that. So, that association, he learned so much from them in watching them and working around them.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's many different ways of acquiring knowledge,
Mhm.
and not everybody can go to an art school, right?
Right.
But
Right.
if you surround yourself by people who have a high level of skill and you pick that up and you go to the next level and you perfect that and you keep moving up the line. So yeah, it's a choice. You have to, in many times, if you want to learn something, you have to have the motivation to seek somebody out who can share that with you. So it's important. Okay. So moving on. Anybody else got anything to say more about this guy's paintings?
Just wonderful.
Yeah. Okay.
You can understand now when you
go
say
to some of the
layering,
places where they're
you gotta
selling.
understand what layering is. That really showed you how it is layered.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, how you build up the color. And again, he's working with a water-based medium. Okay. And on a surface that's not particularly
Absorbent.
receptive to being absorbent. And so there are ways that you can work with pigments like that, on layering those surfaces and get them to actually be permanent. So
I want to ask you two things.
Pardon?
I want to ask you two things.
Okay.
When is the last
Can we
time-
see more? Can we see more than the top of your head, Armando?
Can I see? Oh,
Okay. Yeah, I'm just seeing like the very top, the glow on the top of your head.
when is our last day on this season? So,
I want to say it's the 20th.
it's in this month.
Yeah, in this session.
Uh-huh.
And registration is that following week.
But you're gonna register us like always. We tell you and you will register
Yeah.
us.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the same basic process. Yeah.
Well, tell us about that paint behind you, that lady sitting and then.
Yes, I noticed it too. Is that new, Charles?
Uh-huh.
The lady sitting.
Yes, she's reclining.
Oh,
Heritage
Oh.
Park.
yeah, that's well, okay. Technically, her name is Ashley, and she posed for us out at Heritage Park.
Yes.
And no, it's not a new painting. It was done a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
Oh.
Yeah, but I actually got it framed and ready to take down. Anise is hanging work from the Atlanta Artist Center, and so people submitted work, to have, and they needed to be small pieces, because they're hanging a lot of different artwork up, so that, and they're for sale, through Anise. Okay.
I want to say one thing also about the video. It reminded me of the first time I went to the Epcot Center down in Disney World, the Epcot Center Park, and they had representation in little, not stores, but representation from all over the world of artwork and things that represented that part of the country. And if you would go into some of the Asian stores or some of the, there was one store because it was just displayed because you really didn't buy a lot of stuff. But you would see how some of the personal artwork that they did and things that they made by hand. And I remember seeing a lot of the Asian, that's when I really got a good understanding, a good view of some of the work that they did there. Otherwise, you have to go to a art museum and you will see some of it represented. But they had some things, and that's when I fell in love with a lot of the Asian kind of clothing and some of their work. I used to have panels of some of those kind of things that they did on my wall. So you have to go to their particular, where they specialize in that, to find and get appreciation. So some of the things that they do by hand or customize in this country.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
You go to Disney World, go to the Epcot Center, and you'll see representation, good representation from across the world of custom things.
Yep. Okay. We have about 30 minutes left in this round, and that's not going to give me time to play one of the videos for you because it's a fairly long one. It's 49 minutes. And so we'll come back. Maybe we'll do it next week. But I have a couple of others that I'm going to share with you. And these are fairly short. Okay. And they won't take up the whole 30 minutes, but that will give us some time to talk about them in between. Okay.
Charles, I wanted to interject. I did look up on the internet, and the type of wood that they use to drink the sake from is called hinoki or cedar, like you said. They have natural antibacterial properties to keep food and drink fresh.
Okay, right, yeah. And would be repellent to liquids, you know.
Right.
Yeah, right. That's why they put like cedar, you know, or like cypress or redwood on the outside of a house, because again, it's water resistant or repellent. Okay, and it can hold up to being wet. Okay, right. And you don't have to paint any of them. You know, you can actually leave them natural, and they're just naturally water repellent. Anyway, okay, so let's go back here, and let's see. Actually, I'm gonna play. I was gonna do. Now, okay, now I'm gonna go back to plan A. Okay, and let's do this one right here.
If you're looking to learn watercolor painting, we've uploaded a free report for you. It has over 25.
Come on. We can skip that in. So it's relevant.
Shibasaki. Mm-hmm.
So he's using kind of a low-tack masking tape there. And he's painting on a piece of watercolor paper that seems to be fairly smooth. I guess we don't need this ad sitting right in the middle of it, do we? Okay, come on. what's going on. Come on. Okay. Yeah, notice how he's holding the pencil?
Mhm.
Yeah, he's actually drawing with it. He's not like he's writing. Can anybody tell me what kind of perspective he's using right there?
Kind of what?
What kind of perspective?
Single,
Yeah, 1 point, 2 point, or you know, I mean,
one point.
One
yeah,
point.
one point perspective. Yay, you got it right. You guys are learning something. Woo, woo.
And it's 1 point because we are looking straight at it.
Well, it's, yes, everything's converging to a single point on the horizon.
Okay.
That water seemed to be a little thick, didn't it? Maybe it had something in it.
Yeah, you know, I don't think it's like particularly thick or anything. I mean, he's got a fair amount of pigment in it. But remember that watercolor
Hey.
gets lighter as it dries.
Right.
See, now he's going back in with a brush and water and just lifting out shapes. So he's working both ways. And remember when the pigment, it looked fairly dark, now it's beginning to get lighter as it dries. John, are you this noisy and active when you're doing watercolor? I guess John went to go get a sandwich.
Oh, I was on mute, sorry. No, I'm not usually that noisy and I have music in the background.
Ah, okay.
Too early for sandwich.
So he's using a different kind of brush at the lower part of the painting than he was at the top?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, he's going to use a variety of brushes, you know, different, mainly rounds, you know, for most of this. You know, he'll use a few flats, but he's using primarily Western style watercolor paint and paint sets and brushes. He's not using really traditional Japanese brushes or Asian brushes for the most part.
How are theirs different?
How are they different? Most of the Asian brushes have very long pointed natural hairs. This is a synthetic brush with a, you know, kind of a wood handle and metal ferrule.
Mhm.
And the Japanese brushes don't have metal ferrules. You know, it's a piece of bamboo and they're inset into the bamboo and glued.
That's interesting.
Do they still make horsehair brush
Yes, they do.
that cost more money?
Not necessarily, no.
What's the advantage of a horsehair brush, Armando?
Horsehair is kind of a stiff, thick bristle, and it's good for carrying oil paint because of the bristle is very kind of stiff. Hog hair brushes, same thing. You know, sable, you know, which tends to be a very expensive brush.
But it's better than a synthetic brush?
In some ways, yes. If you know how to use them, but you have to keep them very clean. And sable brushes are really only used for, you know, like blending, you know, in very kind of soft paint passages.
So you want to make beautiful paintings.
Hi,
How do
Daniel.
you
Goodbye,
actually
Daniel.
get there? That's where I started, and I want to make.
Now, you might say that he paints in a very kind of almost Western style. Cutting back through, you know, with the end of the brush. Now, why do you think he would do that in the foreground?
Make your eye go into the picture.
Well, what else?
To show contrast with the rest of the road?
Okay. If you look at this real quick, okay, you know, he's keeping like a coarser sort of texture in the foreground, right? You know, in this area, like right in here. You see how it's kind of broken up in kind of a coarse feeling series of paint strokes, and then back as he moves into the midground and then the background, how the colors are softer. They kind of meld into each other more, and they're not as distinct. Anybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. So again, you know, it's one of those things that, you know, he's creating that contrast, you know, these hard edges versus soft edges, again, to give you depth in the painting. Okay.
And warmer and cooler colors as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, where the background tends to be overall more neutral. You know, the foreground, yeah, it has kind of a warm, cool contrast, but also the intensity of the colors a little bit.
Well, the red roof makes it all look more exciting, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but even that red roof is fairly soft and muted.
Yes,
And then you see now he's putting that little spot of like really intense color in there with the figures.
It's just a little figured person there.
It looks like, yeah, 2 figures.
All I know, it takes me much longer than that to draw a figure for a person.
Are they standing around a fire?
Looks like it.
It will be.
There's the smoke.
No, something just.
Yeah, they're out
There it
burning
is.
something in the field.
Oh, is that
Okay.
cool? Huh?
That's amazing.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, see, he's lifting.
Oh, it's the smoke. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna put himself some foam poles in there or something. Okay.
Power line. Power line pole.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
And the cast shadow.
So do you think he has a resource picture off to the side that he's still using?
Probably. Yeah, my guess would be, yeah. It's a really quick, you know, gestural stroke.
Birds?
I'm not so sure.
Maybe moss or
Yeah.
lichen?
Something, yeah. Yeah, if I were to do that though, it would end up in the middle of the telephone pole. Not up where it needed to go.
Ain't that fast.
Ta-da! Oh, now we got music.
There's got birds in there too. Supposed to be birds, I think.
Be whatever you want it to be.
Yep.
As the music started, the colors look more intense.
That's funny.
Oh, a lot.
Probably the lighting.
Yeah.
Take the picture carefully enough, you don't have to purchase a mat board.
Right.
Around it.
Whoop. Wait a minute. What happened?
Finished.
Oh. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I hit the wrong thing. All right. So real quick, we're going to move into the last video, and then we'll talk about, because they both have to do with painting. Let's see. This is not where we wanted to go. No. Okay. Let's go back. Come on. We gotta go. Okay. Yeah. All right, we're getting close. We're getting close. All right, we did this one. Yeah, okay. So this is the last video we're gonna do today.
It's really important that you learn how to draw because it's the foundation of all creating, and it'll give you freedom to create and express.
Skip that ad. So I agree with her.
Hello, I'm Kia Kasegawa. I'm an artist and a painter.
Okay. Yeah. So she's she's gonna show you a little bit of painting.
I have been studying Japanese paintings Nihonga for about 15 years and working as a Nihonga painter. What attracts me most of Nihonga is the uniqueness of the materials. People sometimes use the word Nihonga to mean a painting method based on traditions for over 1,000 years. We use Japanese mineral pigments and Japanese paper washi made from native plants, animal glue as adhesive for pigments. There is an essence that you cannot express with other painting materials. It is said that Nihonga materials are difficult to control and demands artists for skills to control in the optimum condition. I suppose one of the reasons is that when the mineral ores and stones, which are raw materials of pigments, are crushed into powder, they are sorted by the size of the particles. To handle the different particles of pigments requires experience. However, this variation in the particles gives the painting unique texture. Another reason is that you have to make the paints by yourselves by mixing the pigments with Nikawa. Nikawa is very sensitive to temperature. Often the hues and tones of the paints are obscure and cannot be defined until the mixtures are dried on the paper. You know the color of the red sand is different from the color of it when it is dried. The same thing happens here. The painters need the skills to see the colors before they are actually fixed on the paper. We feel it is troublesome to paint Nihonga. Indeed, you need time and effort to produce a piece of Nihonga, but the time you spend placing the materials is essential. There is no need to hurry and cherish each moment when you paint Nihonga. I used to paint figurative paintings. Japanese painting is associated with subjects such as beautiful scenery, flowers and birds, or portraits. Many artists of Japanese painters still prefer to paint those motifs. There was a starting point for me to explore between representation and abstraction. Since then, my theme has been to depict nature of its existence in a way of abstraction. I believe that the materials of Nihonga often provide the unexpected and are compatible with abstraction. In Japanese paintings, the void is not nothing. There seems nothing, but the painters put a lot of meaning there, as Tohaku or Sotatsu does. They use the void or blank space as one of the elements that compose a painting. Another thing I believe underlies the Japanese culture is the sense of kehai. Kehai is a difficult word to explain. It is something that presents very, very vaguely, but you surely feel it in the atmosphere. It would imply spiritual matter, either friendly or adversarial. Void and kehai are the similar concepts. We try to sense or feel something presence in the invisible. I'd like the audience to feel the invisible atmosphere in my works. The atmosphere I feel in nature, interacting intuitively with it. A few years ago, I visited a remote island in the center of Inland Sea. it was a place where I felt embraced by its nature, feeling the kehai, depth and affluence and calmness of a certain thing. I had the same experience in the snowy woods of Finland. It was a sense of oneness with nature. In the harsh winter cold, which seemed to reject every little thing, I could perceive the significant presence of nature. What I would like to express in my works is the memories of the moments when I face nature. They reflect my inner sceneries. To me, mineral pigments and Japanese washi paper are the desirable tools to render kehai of nature. I paint using water, putting colors, expecting the unexpected. I hope you will enjoy the world of Nihonga. Thank you for watching and see you in another video.
Ah, did I get you guys to think of anything?
Abstract.
Pardon?
I think of abstract.
Abstract, okay, yeah. Well, yeah, her work was this sort of kind of leaned a little bit in the abstract direction, but it was still rooted in sort of recognizable landscape and natural elements, right? Okay.
Nothing is something.
Pardon?
Nothing is something.
Right, yeah.
Invisible.
Yeah, well, she was talking, it's kind of early on last week, they mentioned a term, it's called wabi-sabi. Anybody remember that?
Yeah, I remember it, but I don't know what, I can't remember what it means.
Okay, well, it was one of those philosophies or approaches from Shinto Buddhism,
Right.
and it sort of explained, you know, that the space on the paper or the thing that they're doing, whatever they're creating, it's this balance that they're looking for, you know, between something.
Negative space with the positive space.
Right, negative, positive space. Right. Okay. You know, and there's not a necessity to fill everything.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And so, and that's a very Asian aesthetic, you know, that Europeans didn't develop. You know, it's like if we have something on the right, we got to have something on the left. You know, with this very symmetrical sort of culture, you know, our background. And then, you know, compared to the Asian culture, which is asymmetrical. And European painting changed, you know, with the influence of Asian, you know, aesthetics. When they sent prints and things into Europe, and the Impressionists in particular began to view those, but not just Impressionists, also academic, you know, and salon-trained artists, all of a sudden began to, you know, change their compositions, you know, because they could see the value in an asymmetrical design. So, anybody else? Got anything to say?
Well, I just like the fact that that you play with all of this this space, and we don't need to necessarily cover the whole canvas. The invisible space gives you some kind of information in itself and tells you something. So I like that, you know, and many of us don't feel that we're finished until we fill every space on our canvas with something, you know. And if we're putting a figure in a space, we want to make sure that all the space around them has something on it, whether it's a building, or whether it's a tree, or whether it's just other people, or some more clouds. A lot of space, we don't like all of that negative space many times. People are more comfortable when everything is full and complete, and then we say we're done because we have no more space to put anything on.
That's right.
So, but I think the feeling of space, Joe, and invisible space can give you a feeling of relaxation.
Mhm. Well, certainly calmness, yes.
And
Yeah.
calmness, yes.
Okay.
Charles, you mixed up the water and the cornstarch and painted on a piece of paper or canvas. With that, could you make a texture so that when you put color on it, the very background would be, say, more flat if you had a tree on it with the raised cornstarch? Would that stay on the paper?
Well, it's not cornstarch. It's a type of adhesive or glue that they add to that particular type of paint. And again, the paint.
But I was thinking of last week with the cornstarch and the glue and.
Oh, you're saying in the marbling.
Right, but if you use that, would it stick to the paper?
No, the cornstarch is only to thicken the water, so that it's that the paper won't sink, or the paper nor the pigment will sink to the bottom. You see, it helps keep all the pigment and everything suspended on the surface, so you can transfer it to the paper. Okay, it took me a while to catch up. I'm sorry.
Well, no, because I didn't explain it exactly, but I was trying to see if I could get a texture that really was raised so it'd be more noticeable.
Not with cornstarch, no. But now, if you're using acrylic, they have all kinds of mediums like gel medium, and they even have mediums that have pumice or sand or things in it to add textures.
Right.
But in your gel medium, or what they call modeling paste,
right,
you can build, you could actually build almost like sculpted low relief surfaces, on your canvas. Okay. And of course, in any of them, you can add things to create more texture, or you can just use the medium by itself to have something that's smooth and sort of flatter. Okay. And of course, it being an acrylic medium, if you prepare your composition and you put in your layers and things in that medium, you can work over it with acrylic, and or you can work over it with oil. Okay, I mean, you can use either one over it because it is an acrylic base. Okay. Yeah. So you can't do that with oil paint and then put acrylic over it.
Well, I don't use the oil paints anyway because they're not good for me.
Right. Yeah. But for those people who are interested, it's so that oil doesn't mix with water.
Right.
So
we know that if you use the acrylic as a background, you can paint oils over it.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
But you can't vice versa because of that.
Right. Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. I gotcha.
Okay. All right. Okay. So what'd you guys think about any of that today? The painting.
I love it. I love the freedom of it.
Mm-hmm.
Some of it.
Yeah.
And even the detailed pieces, they start out with a little more freedom than and a little more flatness than like the guy that painted over the silver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And when you begin to look at different artists, again, there may be similarities, but yeah, each of them kind of bring their own thing to it.
Sure.
They're not going to be the same. So you're going to see as much variety, whether it's a traditional, art from Asia, or a traditional art from the Middle East, or, Europe, Africa,
India, America.
Yeah. Right.
God has spread his talent all over the world.
That's right. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Now, you know, we got one more week that I'm going to spend on Asia. And Wednesday, we'll probably look at some more specifically painting medias and things through Asia and things. And then after that, we're going to come back home to the Americas, and we're going to start looking at some of the crafts, you know, and the kind of higher level skilled craft type things that we do here. All right. So we're, yeah.
I could be with y'all.
Pardon?
I said, I wished I could see it on Wednesdays.
Well, no, it's going to be on Monday and Wednesday. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm only here on Monday.
Right. But yeah, Wednesday, Wednesday, I specifically deal with the process of painting.
Yeah,
'Cause it's
that's
painting.
when I wish I could be with you,
Okay.
but I am unable.
Yeah. But I, you know, like today, I try to cover some painting, some other
Yes.
crafts.
Right.
You know, it's more, today's kind of a more broad, getting a sense of the culture and
Right.
getting a sense of the aesthetics and the philosophies behind, you know, what motivates these particular artists to produce the work that they do. Okay. So,
Very interesting too.
yeah. Kind of feel like you took a little trip today, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Loved it.
Definitely.
Wished I could trip with you on Wednesdays and Mondays.
No.
You know, it's too bad that with Zoom you can't record the session.
Yeah.
I mean, you can as the host, but as individuals on the Zoom, we cannot record the session.
Well, the fact is, though, John,
Ew.
because I am recording them, you don't have to. You can go to YouTube and you can download and play them as many times as you want.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was going to tell that to Gene too. It's on YouTube, but then the thought came to me like, too bad we can't just record our own.
Right. Yeah, but Gene, and that is a good point. You know, since you can't make it on Wednesdays, you can always go to YouTube and download any of the Wednesday classes so you can watch them on your own.
And what do I do? How do I get on this specific YouTube? By going to Fulton County Benson Center or?
No, you would go to YouTube.
Right.
And then you would do a search at the top, you know, in the search bar.
Yeah.
For Fulton County art classes, Zoom art classes. Okay. And you'd get a whole menu, you know, in your search. And you would just search through, you know, if you wanted to put in, like, for example, painting and mixed media on Wednesday, right?
Right.
You know, Fulton County art classes, mixed media and painting, you know, Wednesdays. It would pull up those classes that have been uploaded, and you can go back and listen to any of them.
That's terrific. We'll have to try and do that.
Yeah. Now that doesn't let you participate in the class, but that lets you go back and
the
see.
information is there that you can watch it.
Right.
So that's great.
Yeah.
I saw that.
Okay. And that's, you know, that's Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays now, and Fridays.
Mm-hmm.
See? You can go back to any of the drawing classes, things like that. View any of them. Okay.
How far back do they go? All year or only the next month? Or?
Yeah, you can go all the way back to the very first class that we had. They're all
YouTube never eliminates anything.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. They're out there in computer land for, you know, forever.
I'm not digitally inclined, but I'm going to find it. I'm going to find that because I would be interested in, you know, I could do that at night.
Yeah.
That will give you something to do.
That's right. Yeah. Not that you don't have enough to do now, but, you know.
Well,
but
yeah, but when I get back, sometimes I'm so dead tired I can't do anything but flop. But
yeah, and yes, while you're flopping,
it's available at any time, so that makes it better for me.
Right.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, everybody. Well,
Fine.
You know, I've got a few things from a few people.
Oh yeah, I have to send mine.
Yes, but yes, if you haven't sent stuff for tomorrow, please do so. Okay, we have a
I won't
class.
be. I won't be there till probably 3 o'clock. I got a dentist appointment earlier.
Okay, yeah, but you've already sent in some stuff, I think.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Okay, and John,
Yes.
if you want, I'll, you know, when you come on, just let me know that you're here, and I'll cover your stuff at that point.
Okay, sounds fair enough.
Okay, Charles,
Yes.
look for bulletin number 625, Landscape Plants of Georgia, when you go online.
Okay,
Got that?
and who? Okay, what is it?
Yeah.
Landscape Plants of Georgia.
Yeah, bulletin number 625,
Of
and
who?
it's from the Cooperative Extension Office. And they have a whole list of plants that go from ground covers, vines, ornamental types of shrubs, the forms, small, medium, large, and they'll give you like, it's just like a little handbook on what you can put in your yard.
Okay, sounds good. All right.
Yeah,
I'll
it's
have to go
very
look at it.
informative.
All right.
Under what department is that under?
Excuse me?
What department is that under?
Oh, this is the Cooperative Extension Service out of the University of Georgia.
Okay. Thank you.
It's their College of Agriculture and Environmental Sciences.
Oh.
And the name of the book again is Landscape?
Yes, Landscape Plants of Georgia.
Landscape, okay.
And it's got a number 625.
Mhm.
And they've updated this one since I got this one a couple years ago.
Okay,
But
thank you.
it's just filled with tons of information about anything you want to put in your yard.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right.
All right.
Anybody else before we go away to lunch?
No, we'll see you tomorrow.
Oh, now, thank you.
Bye,
All right.
everybody.
Thank you all for coming.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Yep. Hopefully we see you
Thank you.
tomorrow.
Bye.